Hey, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about how to stay positive despite adversity, and we have an expert. How is it we can do some amazing and sometimes unexplainable things, like heal our own bodies by the power of our thoughts? Mother's intuition, the law of attraction. Can we really tap into our subconscious mind? Can we really create our own realities? It begs the question, are we novice gods? All right, I'm super excited to have you join me today. We have Sarah Johnson here, who is an expert in adversity. If you want adversity in your life, she will get it to you.
No!
Okay, no, I'm kidding on that. But she's had some experiences with adversity, and she talks a lot about the sweet fruits in adversity. So we want to kind of jump into this and figure out, how do you stay positive when you have adversity, when you have trials and troubles and things going wrong in your life that you don't want to have happen. Tell us a little bit about what you've experienced.
Okay, so about 8 years ago, we got a call. My husband and I were just sitting down to see Les Miserables, and we got a phone call from our neighbor saying that our backyard was on fire and that we needed to get home. His daughter, the man that called us, his daughter was babysitting our 4 children. She had to evacuate the kids. They were barefoot. If the fire had happened the day before, we would have lost our house because there was a big fire a couple cities down and all the resources would have been gone. Luckily, our house was spared, but we totally lost our backyard. The fence was burned down. Our beautiful vegetable garden, it was just gorgeous. All of it was burned to the ground. We lost our grass. And the saddest part for me was that I had just planted a brand new peach tree. I love peaches. And the peach tree, because of the heat from the fire, the peach tree died. And I was just so sad. Well, the next year, from that peach tree, from the roots of that peach tree, grew a new peach tree. Oh. And I have to tell you, these fruit trees that we planted were about as tall as I am. I'm 5.5 feet tall. And just little trees, but this peach tree that grew up from the ashes literally now is like 20 feet tall.
Really?
Just gigantic, and it produces like softball size peaches, and just juicy and succulent and just absolutely delicious. And so I had this thought, as my family has gone through some adversity that was more significant than a house fire, that we can have sweet fruit even through adversity. And this year, despite my husband having gone through a brain tumor surgery, horrible medical challenges, we lost our business. Basically, it burned to the ground when we dealt with this medical catastrophe. Mm-hmm. I have never felt so much joy and connection and hope despite really difficult circumstances. Okay,
now I want to dive deep into that. How do you get hope when you're going through all of this stuff? You know, how do you turn is it in the adversity? Is it in, what is it that's giving you hope? I gotta know.
There's so much. Okay, so the first thing I have to tell you, if you're going through adversity, if you're struggling with an issue, a lot of times people will say, oh, just be positive. I had a lot of friends tell me, and my life literally was falling apart. Like, we were on just so many, I mean, you just say brain tumor, like you can imagine how difficult that was. And I had some well-intentioned friends who would say to me, oh, Sarah, you should be so grateful that ... and you could fill in the blank. You should be so grateful that your husband didn't have cancer. You should be grateful that your husband is still alive, which I was. But the thing of it is that when you force positivity down somebody who's suffering, they don't feel connected. They just feel stepped on. Wouldn't you agree? Have you had that experience?
Yeah.
So my first suggestion is, when you're dealing with adversity, is just to make friends with your feelings. Like, if you're feeling grief, if you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling sad, if you're dealing with depression, make friends with that feeling and acknowledge that feeling and give that feeling space in your life to run its course.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I like that. I wrote a book on happiness, so I studied a lot about it. And I think an important part is to truly grieve, to allow yourself to feel all the emotions.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised to think about how often we stifle emotions and shut down emotions because we think it's not healthy.
Right.
But it's actually not healthy to feel the full expression of life,
Right.
you know?
And that feeling will never go away unless it's acknowledged. It's kind of like a sticky booger.
It is exactly like a sticky booger.
can't
I don't
get
know
rid
what
of
you're
it.
talking about here. You can't get rid of it.
Can't get rid of the sticky booger. I apologize if that's offensive.
It's going to stick in your mind. You talk about sticky.
Right,
That'll totally
right.
stick in your mind.
So be okay to grieve. Be okay to, and you can do that in a healthy way. Like, find a really great therapist, have a really good friend, enjoy some food that makes you feel a little bit of pleasure. Write in your journal. Spend time writing in your journal. Maybe you record your feelings, but like express the feelings and spend time crying and spend time communicating those feelings. Because once you've expressed those feelings, they're okay to leave, and you can replace those feelings with more positive feelings.
I like that. And I like the term that you use, make friends with your feelings and your emotions and have those play out. Do you have any cautions on, because it's really easy, I am a guy that spirals down. It's
Yes.
really easy to go down that rabbit hole and
Yes.
just be focused on all the negativity. And so I have to do deliberate things in order to stop myself from
Yes.
going too far. So you're talking about making friends with your feelings. Where do you set the
Okay,
boundaries?
I have a good story.
Okay.
I was 4 months pregnant, and my husband and I decided to go mountain biking. And that kind of feels like eating Thanksgiving dinner and then putting a basketball on your stomach and holding it there while you're riding your bicycle. It's not very comfortable. But I decided I
take
wanted
your
to
word
go,
for this.
right? And we were on a flat piece of dirt, but it was really muddy. And my husband was in front of us, and he was riding this bike, and I was behind him, and I was like, "Don't stop!" And he's like, "Why are you yelling at me?" And I'm like, "I'm not yelling at you, I'm yelling at me." Because if you stop in the mud, it's really messy, and it's really hard to get momentum to get out of it.
Ah, okay.
So don't wallow in the mud. My mom was a perfect example of this, having gone through a really terrible divorce. She was a single mom to 2 young kids. And her friends, when I was adult, told me, "Your mom was so good at not staying in the mud." She got dragged through the mud, but she didn't stay there. So having an opportunity to express those feelings, but immediately after you express those feelings, you've got to replace it with something positive. So dancing, like I have playlists on my phone, and my kids know what kind of mood mom's in based on the music, whether it's instrumental and it's really peaceful, or if it's like a dance party, having some positive energy. Immediately, like something that I do is I'll, if I'm really upset but I don't want to hurt my loved ones by expressing that anger, I'll write it down on a piece of paper and like full out express myself. But I'm
Really get it out.
Yes, like no holds bar. But I'm gonna rip it up and throw it away outside my garbage can so that it's out of me, but it's not hurting my family member. But immediately finding something positive to replace that negativity.
I like that. I like that. Another thing that you can pay attention to is gratitude is just the most amazing thing. So if you need a way to get out of the mud, if you're feeling like you're starting to get stuck there, express gratitude.
Yes.
Whether it's a gratitude journal, whether it's writing a gratitude letter to somebody that you care about, somebody who has done something wonderful for you, and maybe you haven't expressed gratitude for them fully. I mean, that's a great, just kind of, it's an easy out.
Yeah.
So you get out of the mud.
Well, and that is a perfect lead in to another tip that I had.
There we go.
Is to make a case for yourself. Your brain is going to make a case for whatever point of view you have. So if your point of view is that life is hard and that I'm sad and that I'm angry, your brain is going to start collecting evidence all over with the people, the way people interact with you, what people say, what things look like, and you're going to build that case for negativity. But a really, really great exercise is to build a positive case instead of building a negative case. So this is an example. My husband was recovering a brain injury survivor, and brain injury survivors require a lot of sleep.
Okay.
So your brain needs tons and tons of sleep. That's one of the reasons why little kids need a lot of sleep, is because their brains are developing.
Oh.
And so I was working and he was working, but by about 2:00 he'd be done with the day, and he would be laying down watching TV. And I had this story run in my head that life is so hard and I have to do it all on my own. And he's laying down and I have to take care of the kids and get the homework done and clean the house and finish the client projects. Do you feel how heavy that story sounds? And I was really mad and resentful. And I knew that if I kept that story running, that eventually that it would ruin our marriage and really affect my husband's healing. So I made a conscious decision to start making a positive case for my husband. So this is the new story. Listen to how this feels. My kids are so lucky that their dad is home with them after school and they get to cuddle and watch cartoons together. Can you imagine how safe and loved my kids are going to feel knowing that their dad is right there with them? And so instead of me being resentful, I started feeling grateful that he was alive and he was with us. And I was feeling grateful that he took care of his body enough to give his body the time it needed to rest. And do you know what happened? 3 days into this exercise, we're talking brain injury survivor who could barely walk to her mailbox and back. He was running 3 miles. He ran a 5K straight.
3 days after you started switching your story?
Yeah. The circumstance didn't change. He still had a brain injury. I still had a house to take care of and a business to run. This story had nothing to do with my husband. It had to do with me and how I was coming to our marriage. And he could feel that. Now, did I run for him? No. I've never run 3 miles in a row. But when you start making a case for your spouse, when you start making a case for yourself and for your life, then you start feeling grateful.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most powerful feelings in life. So regardless of what adversity you're going through, making a case for, even if it's as simple as, I kept the children alive today.
Congratulations.
I showered. Some days when we were at the hospital, like in ICU, my aunt, who's a brain injury caregiver, she gave me that advice. She said, if you can just read your scriptures and get dressed for the day and everyone is still alive, that's a celebration. And so I celebrated those small victories. And then as you're healing from your adversity, there's this feeling of gratitude and a feeling of celebration that will allow you to find hope, regardless of what's happening.
I love that. And I hope you caught what she's talking about here. She's talking about changing your beliefs. And that's what this whole documentary series is about, is you can choose your belief. As she changed the story, as you kind of figured out, okay, what is a more constructive story, a more constructive belief that I can have about my husband, as you change that, it allowed positivity in. It allowed you to create this amazing experience. 3 days later, I mean, that's amazing. That's a miracle, really. And I believe that you do have the opportunity to create miracles in your life. You are more creative than you think. You are more powerful than you think. And it starts with changing your beliefs. Hey friends, want to get rid of stress, anxiety, and worry? Ready to use some of your inner creation powers? Visit scottwilhite.com and join me for a web class. If you do it soon, I'll give you a free planner.